with my background with, foreign banks and really, sort of large, complicated banks, all that IT stuff on a large scale is very difficult because you've got plenty of different countries, you've got different regulations, you've got different cultural approaches to change. And so those large changes of legacy systems have always been far more complex, far more expensive than anyone thought in my experience. And they've had names like Greenfield and, meaning one system. And they take years and years and years and usually cycle through many different IT projects and things like that. And they're just, they're very all-encompassing, but they need to be done if an organization is going to move forward. The role of the analyst. So I'm, as you can tell, I'm old school. So my first comment is, it doesn't change the role of the analyst at all. They still need to read the financial statements. They still need to understand cash flow. They need to understand the business. So from an individual credit point of view, it doesn't change the job, if you will. I think where we can help a lot with automation is the bigger drive to capture data. We're forcing analysts to fill more forms out during their normal process. And so that's where we can try to get bots and things like that to fill out those forms in a more efficient way. And again, those forms, that way they're checked and become a more digital process, but it tends to make some of the analysts' work more tedious. So they tend to spend more time on that than they do on the real analysis. So automating those types of features that in turn lead to a better, understanding of data, that's where I think we can help. And the systems I've seen that are the best are the ones that can be programmed almost manually and almost within the team. Some of the junior people are pretty smart, and we can use off-the-shelf systems to manipulate things like this without touching any data. We pick data, we put it in a form. That's a fairly easy way we can use IT to move that along without going back to that horror of trying to change a legacy system. So those types of things really help. I think the other thing is what I'm concerned about, especially and this touches on something we talked about earlier, is that we have analysts that really haven't, they've been working 10, 15 years, 10, 12, 13 years. So they're very experienced, but they've never really seen a recession. They've seen of course, the pandemic, but I think we all experienced with the flood of money that came in, it certainly wasn't a normal recession where all the businesses have trouble and all that. The problems were fairly isolated. And I'm sorry, I don't know the default rates, but I guarantee you they were a whole lot less than a normal recession as money in the system came in. And so, the problem I have with the analysts now is that they really need to know, they really need to know their job so they can point out things early on. So I think that there's certainly a role for technology to assist, let's say, just the average analyst, but it doesn't in any way replace the role that he's been playing for the last 20 years. It does on the portfolio management side, as we talked earlier, in terms of running higher level models, but the role of the analyst to understand a company and understand the risks, I don't think that's changed. But, because I've got gray hair, so you're going to get that answer from me.
That's a really interesting point of view. I would add one or two other things. I mean, traditionally, the credit analyst was, focused principally, if not exclusively, on credit, whereas in the world that we all operate in today, we also have to focus on operational risk, reputational risk, all different types of risks. And I do think as, that role continues to evolve, I don't know, maybe we'll continue to call them credit analysts or just analysts, but, we're all dealing with, all different types of risk. Wouldn't you agree, Dave?
Absolutely. And to your point, like my team is responsible for making sure things got booked correctly, making sure that money came in, making sure, yeah, and you're absolutely right. So you're 100% right. It's not just about understanding the cash flow, but you're right. They have to understand that, and they have to be able to pick out things that are not working in the system and raise them as an op risk, right? As we all know. And so you're right, absolutely. So that has expanded. Completely agree with that comment. I think the other thing, I just was looking at my notes that I scribbled down, was one of the other ways I guess technology has helped, and I think you all have alluded to it in some way, shape, or form, is we have a system here called Credit Alert. I'm sure you all have other types of systems, but basically they feed off of all the public flow of information that might be available, and then they also take information that's been either auto spread or spread in person, and look for things that are happening, like an equity price going crazy or a CDS spread going crazy. So we call it a credit alert, but that is something that has actually helped, because instead of every analyst looking at every single account every day, combing the papers, we have sort of an alert system that of course generates far too many alerts, but that's okay. We'll deal with that. But that is a very interesting tool. I should have talked about that too. So.